Chapter 1. The day the woods took her, the woods behind Briar Hollow had always been ancient, silent, and watchful. Trees pressed together tightly, their twisted branches blotting out sunlight and muffling all sound. Children whispered that the forest swallowed voices, that even a scream would vanish among its shadows. Marabelle had never believed in such tales, until the day her daughter disappeared. Lily, her 7-year-old, had wandered near the creek behind their house, humming while sketching in a small notebook. "Mama, can I go play by the water?" she asked, her dark hair falling into her eyes. Mara hesitated but nodded. She had no idea that those moments at the edge of the forest would be the last time she saw her alive. Hours passed. Mara called, first gently, then urgently, as the sunlight dimmed. The creek was empty, the air heavy and unnaturally still. Her heart seized when she noticed something lying among fallen leaves. A small, cracked doll. Its porcelain face was chipped, one glass eye missing, but the familiar blue ribbon tangled in its stiff fingers made her stomach drop. That ribbon had belonged to Lily. When Ethan arrived home that evening, weary from work, Mara could barely speak. She dropped the doll onto the floor, its hollow gaze staring up at them. "She's gone," Mara whispered. Ethan bent, examining the doll, the color draining from his face. The clock ticked loudly in the silent kitchen. Then, from somewhere deep within the woods, a faint giggle echoed, a sound unmistakably Lily's. Desperation drove them back to the forest, flashlights in hand. They moved cautiously along twisted paths. Shadows seemed to slither along the ground, and every snap of a twig made them flinch. In a small clearing they saw her, or what appeared to be her. Lily knelt on the ground, small and fragile, yet disturbingly still, her movements jerky, as if controlled by unseen strings. "Lily, is that you?" Ethan's voice trembled. The girl looked up, and a single glassy eye met theirs. Her voice, when it came, was faint and hollow. "I am here." Mara reached out, heart hammering. But the child recoiled slightly, then swayed closer, rocking like a living doll. It was Lily, alive but transformed, caught between childhood innocence and the forest's dark influence. The doll's blue ribbon shimmered in the fading light, a tether to the daughter they knew. For hours they coaxed her back, whispering promises, holding hands, trying to bridge the gap between what she had become and the child she had been. The forest murmured around them, shadows shifting as if testing their resolve. Finally, the clearing seemed to accept their presence, the whispers dimming. Lily, trembling, allowed them to guide her home. Though the forest still claimed part of her, Mara felt a fragile hope. That night, as they locked the doors and drew the curtains, Mara and Ethan sat, with Lily between them on the living room floor. The doll they had found earlier remained on the shelf, a silent reminder of what had happened. Lily curled against Mara, shivering slightly, but smiling faintly. I'm home," she whispered. Mara kissed her forehead, tears streaming freely. "Yes, baby. You're home. And we'll never let you go again." The forest loomed beyond the windows, silent for now. But its presence remained. A warning that their daughter's return was only partial, that the woods had claimed something of her forever. Yet for tonight, the family was together. They had survived the forest's first claim, and Lily had come back to them. Chapter 2. The Doll's Secret. The morning after Lily returned, the house felt different. Sunlight streamed through the windows, but Mara could feel the forest's chill lingering, a cold pulse in the corners of the rooms. Lily moved slowly, her small frame stiff and her movements jerky at times, like she was relearning how to be herself. Mara watched her from the kitchen table, noticing subtle oddities, the way Lily's eyes darted toward shadows, the way she paused mid-step as if hearing whispers invisible to anyone else. Ethan tried to maintain normalcy. "Breakfast? Lily," he called cheerfully, hoping to mask his own unease. Lily smiled faintly, not quite meeting his gaze. Mara set her cup down, voice trembling. "Honey, are you feeling okay?" Lily looked up, her remaining glassy eye catching the light. I'm fine, Mama," she said, but there was a hollow echo in her tone. Something had returned with her from the forest, something beyond their understanding. Days passed, and small, unexplainable events began to accumulate. Toys in Lily's room were found rearranged, not in the chaotic pattern of a child's play, but in deliberate, almost ritualistic shapes. The doll, the same porcelain figure they had found in the woods, was never far from her sight. Sometimes it appeared in rooms she hadn't been in, sitting upright, facing the doorway, like it had been waiting for someone. Mara and Ethan tried to rationalize it, but the dread in their hearts refused logic. One night, as the family slept, Mara awoke to a soft giggle. She followed it to Lily's room. The child sat on the floor, rocking slightly, the doll in her lap. "Mama?" Lily's voice was faint but clear. Mara knelt beside her. "Yes, baby." Lily lifted the doll, and the cracked glass eye seemed to shimmer unnaturally. She talks to me," Lily whispered. "I can hear things she hears. The woods, they tell her stories, and now I remember too." Mara's stomach nodded. Her daughter was alive, but connected to the doll, and through it, to the forest. Ethan joined them, flashlight in hand, shining on the porcelain face. "This isn't normal," he said, voice tight. "We need to figure out what it wants, what it is." Lily's gaze flickered between her parents and the doll. "It wants someone to see, someone to understand," she said softly. Mara realized that the doll was not simply a vessel for Lily's form. It was a bridge between her daughter and something far older, something that lived in the shadows of the forest. Over the next week, the whispers grew. At times they were subtle, almost comforting, like faint memories surfacing in dreams. Other times they were sharp, insistent, commanding attention. Lily began speaking in her sleep, repeating phrases that made no sense, but seemed tied to the woods. "The river remembers. They are waiting. Do not leave the path." Mara and Ethan exchanged fearful glances. Their daughter's mind had become a conduit for something beyond human understanding. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily turned to them with a clarity they had not seen since her return. "Mama, Papa, I think she wants me to go back," she said, nodding at the doll. Her voice was calm, almost resolved. Mara's heart tightened. "Go back where?" Lily's eyes glistened. "Back to the forest, to see, to understand everything I lost." Ethan took a deep breath, holding Mara's hand. They realized, in that instant, that their journey with the forest had only just begun. Chapter 3. The Forest's Claim. The days after Lily's return blurred into a strange, uneasy routine. The sunlight through the windows never seemed warm enough, and shadows lingered in corners where none should exist. Mara noticed subtle changes in her daughter, small gestures, moments when Lily's head would tilt unnaturally, as if listening to voices no one else could hear. Even her laughter sounded hollow at times, carrying a faint echo of the forest's whispers. One evening, Mara found Lily kneeling on the floor, the porcelain doll in her lap, murmuring softly. "The forest, it remembers me," Lily said, her voice quivering between childlike innocence and something older. Mara knelt beside her, fear knotting her stomach. "It remembers you, yes, but it won't hurt you. We're here, Lily." The child shook her head slowly. "It doesn't want to hurt, Ma, it wants to claim. And part of me, it has already taken." Ethan entered the room, holding a flashlight though the ceiling lights were on. He shone it on the doll, and the cracked glass eye seemed to gleam unnaturally. "We have to know what it wants," he said quietly, voice heavy with dread. "If the forest has marked her, we can't just wait. We need to act." Lily's gaze shifted between them. "Act how?" she asked. Her tone was calm, but Mara saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. I think I have to go back to understand. To learn what the woods have done to me." The following night, the family returned to the forest, hearts pounding with a mixture of hope and terror. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches curling like fingers in the darkness. Shadows moved unnaturally, forming shapes that were almost, but not entirely, human. Mara and Ethan held Lily's hands tightly as they stepped onto the familiar path, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. Every snap of a twig sounded like a warning, every rustle of leaves a whisper. At the heart of the forest, the clearing awaited. Lily knelt, the doll before her rocking slightly. "They're here," she murmured, and Mara's skin prickled. Shapes emerged from the darkness, small, twisted silhouettes of children long lost, lingering between the trees, watching, waiting. The air vibrated with soft whispers, phrases unintelligible yet heavy with intent. Lily's hand brushed the doll, and suddenly the glassy eye seemed to shimmer, sending a ripple through the shadows. Mara swallowed hard. "Lily, you don't have to do this alone. We're with you." Her words carried a weight of conviction that cut through the forest's tension, if only slightly. Lily looked up, one of her own eyes meeting Mara's, the other reflecting the doll's unnatural sheen. "I know," she whispered. "But I have to understand them, to know what they want from me, and maybe to take back what is mine." The forest seemed to breathe with them, alive and aware. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. When they finally emerged from the forest, dawn breaking behind them, Mara felt the weight of what had transpired. Lily walked beside them, calm, composed, yet something fundamental had shifted within her. She was still their daughter, still alive, but part of her belonged to the woods now, forever intertwined with its shadows, far from over. Chapter 3. What the woods keep. The forest loomed at the edge of Briar Hollow like a dark, eternal sentinel. Mara and Ethan had tried to resume life as normal, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. Lily moved with an eerie calm, the doll always near her, its cracked glass eye catching the light, as if watching. Even in the safety of their home, Mara felt the forest's presence pressing against the walls, waiting, patient, eternal. One night, the whispers returned, louder and more urgent than ever. Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring words that were part child, part forest. "They are hungry. They remember. They wait." Mara and Ethan exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. They had known that the forest's claim was not something simple. They had been fortunate, but the wood's hunger was never fully sated. The doll, they realized, was not just a bridge. It was a key. The following evening, Lily took the doll in her hands and spoke quietly, almost reverently. "I have to go back, to finish what I started, to understand, to choose." Mara's heart clenched. "You don't have to go alone," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. Ethan nodded. "We'll be with you. Every step." Lily's small hand brushed theirs, her touch cold but alive, a reminder of the girl she had been. As they entered the forest, the shadows seemed to part for them, yet the air thrummed with energy. The whispers were more coherent now, forming words and phrases, voices of children who had been lost, watching, waiting for someone to join them. Lily's movements were fluid, almost natural now. Her body no longer stiff, yet her eyes carried something old, something beyond childhood. At the heart of the clearing, the doll rose slowly from Lily's grasp, hovering for a moment before settling upright. The shadows gathered around it, forming faces and shapes that were impossible to fully comprehend. The whispers rose to a cacophony. Lily knelt beside the doll, touching it gently, her voice calm but commanding. "I remember. I see. I am not afraid." Mara felt a shiver of awe and terror. Her daughter had become a bridge, a witness, a negotiator between the forest and the living. The forest's influence was palpable, thick as mist, wrapping around them, pressing into their minds. The shadows receded slightly as Lily whispered instructions to the unseen children, calming them, guiding them. Mara realized that Lily was not just alive, she was now a protector, holding the balance between the human world and the forest's memory. The doll, once a vessel, had served its purpose, returning the girl to her parents while tethering her to a power beyond comprehension. When they finally emerged from the forest, dawn breaking across the horizon, Lily walked with them, the doll still at her side but inert, a silent witness to what had passed. She was whole, alive yet changed, marked by the forest but not broken. Mara held her close, tears flowing freely. "You're back, fully." Lily smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting both innocence and the memory of shadows. Ethan placed a hand on Mara's shoulder. "We survived together." The forest remained behind them, eternal and patient, keeping its secrets, but for now, they had reclaimed their daughter. Life returned slowly to Briar Hollow. The shadows at the windows faded. The whispers grew faint, and the doll rested silently on the shelf. Yet Mara knew the forest still watched, and Lily still carried its memory within her. They had survived the forest's claim, and the girl who had vanished had returned, not unscathed but alive. And as they held her close, they understood something fundamental. Some darkness could never be erased, only faced. And love, fragile as it was, could endure even the oldest, deepest shadows.